Xebec is very much remembered and left a legacy comparable to that of Gold Roger himself, influencing what would become the Yonkou and their ambitions. With a big difference, Xebec still reverberates in current eras, with Law and Blackbeard following his ambition. And this puts him on a level above any pirate we've ever seen. Want to know everything about Roger D. Xebec, the strongest and most feared pirate in One Piece history? Then pay attention, because I'm going to talk about it. Hey guys, D-MAYSTER channel with another video for you. How are you all doing? I hope you are all wonderfully well. Today bringing a very cool video, Roger D. Xebec. How this pirate influenced an entire generation of super powerful pirates, with the Yonkou, and even to this day, with Blackbeard pursuing the dream of being the king of the world, and now Law. But who was Xebec? What did he do? Was he powerful, or was he a character like Buggy, who only recruited people through jokes and comedy? Well, watch until the end of this video, because there's a lot of new and cool information. If you're new to the channel, take it easy. If you like the video, I ask you to subscribe. Now, if you're from the worst generation, cannonball that like, Xebec style, to give this video a boost. And now, with you, everything about the most feared pirate in One Piece history. So let's go, my friends. With Xebec and Roger being two of the most important characters in the world after the Void Century, we can see how their influence impacted the story we've seen so far. On one hand, the Pirate King started a great era of piracy, all to find the right person that the One Piece treasure and the world are waiting for. Roger searched for Joy Boy, the one who would surpass him and bring the dawn, after discovering the whole truth of the world. But Roger D. Xebec, he went a little further. Even without reaching the last island, he messed with taboos long before Roger even knew what that meant. With that, Xebec became the most feared man in One Piece history, post-Joy Boy. Xebec was not just another pirate. He was the strongest of the old era, and the man the world government feared the most. This began with him seeking forbidden information, visiting countries outside the world government's alliances, such as Elbaf, in search of the ultimate power that would fulfill his great dream, to become the king of the world. Xebec sought the ancient weapons. Along with that, Rox commanded Whitebeard, potentially being his first mate, Kaido and Big Mom. Along with Edward Newgate, they later became three of the most dominant Yonkou in the New World. Shiki, the Golden Lion, was another legend in his crew, and shook the seas after God Valley. This dominance of the Golden Lion, shared with Roger and Big Mom, lasted until his imprisonment and Roger's execution, when a new era ended up being formed. So we know Xebec was strong. In his invasion of God Valley, he makes an entrance like Luffy, going ahead and leaving his crewmates behind. This shows us that they didn't follow him by luck or by joke, as happens today with Buggy and the Cross Guild. They followed him because he was the strongest among them. Even decades later, Kaido and Big Mom respect Roger D. Xebec, his legacy, and of course, Law himself, who challenged him as a child, only to end up stabbed and on the verge of death. Law is sometimes said to be someone who can destroy the world in current times, and he literally respects Roger D. as being the Shanks of his life. In the chapter, which, by the way, is one of the best in the entire series, Sengoku says that Xebec's ambition was to become the king of the world, and that his crew was openly hostile to the world government, like a kind of terrorist organization. Everyone knew the danger he represented. The crew was considered the strongest of their time, and his fall, years ago, on God Valley Island, only happened because of the most emblematic and, let's say, improbable alliance in the whole world, between Garp and Roger. Sengoku further explains that this alliance happened to protect the celestial dragons and their slaves, who were in God Valley. And I don't doubt that this truly occurred as a determining point of this alliance, but they didn't do it because of the distinction between nobles or slaves. They did it because Xebec's force was about to eradicate the entire island, taking innocents with it in the process. All of this occurred because the nobles stole the treasure of the pirate island, Xebec's territory, something they call the crown jewel of Hachinosu. Sengoku says that all information about the rocks was erased because he was very ambitious and sought the title of king of the world. And he broke many world taboos. And this part is interesting. Even Roger, with his speech before death, did not suffer the same treatment. All because, on a global scale, what Roger said were just words thrown to the wind, or rather, to the tides. Yes, he pushed many pirates out to sea, but over time, people became frustrated. The One Piece treasure turned into just a rumor, alive in the minds of only a few who were already closer to it. And this is proven in Jaya, with Bellamy's statements, who said that the treasure was nothing more than a fable. However, that changed with Whitebeard's final statement in Marineford, saying that yes, One Piece is real, but the core here is, Roger was not erased, as Roger D. Xebec was. And the only other time we saw such a file burning was in O'Hara and Egghead. And, in both instances, the same reason was cited. They meddled with the world's taboos. It is said that Roger D. Xebec was Roger's first, and perhaps greatest rival. And he also had the initial D of those who bring storms. When Roger invades God Valley, he flirts with a possible defeat to Xebec about a year before the incident. Roger was feeling terrible from waiting to reunite with his rival. There is also a very interesting panel in the chapter where Kaido talks about only a few who are capable of fighting him. And we have that incredible scene of Luffy and the shadows of Odin, Whitebeard, Roger, Shanks, and, of course, Rox D-Xebec in the background. There's also another interesting thing. The real-world pirate named Rock Brasiliano, a Brazilian pirate mind you, probably inspired the name Rox, because Rock was translated as rocks in English. Rock Brasiliano was known for his barbarity and cruelty. What really stands out is that he was lost at sea. This serves as a good narrative structure to justify that we don't know exactly what happened to Rox D-Xebec himself, someone quite familiar, literally being erased from history. And this part of Rock Brasiliano's cruelty is perfectly reflected in Rox D-Xebec when he stabs a child Law without thinking twice, just to teach the brat a lesson. Although we have not seen more than a small part of Xebec's crew, we can imagine that his actual fleet was enormous. After all, he commanded Hachinosu in his time. He wanted to be king of the world, so having a colossal armada makes perfect sense, even from a practical point of view, when you want to face the world government and are called a terrorist organization. This idea spread, even to the remnants of his crew. Big Mom has a gigantic crew, with dozens of children and several islands populated by her influence. Kaido, with the Beast Pirates, reached over 30,000 men, which is already insane in itself. The idea of turning everyone into devil fruit users, or rather smiles, is very likely inspired by some idea left by Rox D-Xebec. And remember, both Big Mom and Kaido also wanted to declare war on the world, and for that, they decided to go after the ancient weapons. Whitebeard, who also had a gigantic crew, attacked Marineford with over 40,000 men, counting subordinates and his deputy captains. They were strong enough to challenge the world government head-on.
100,000 Marines were arrayed against Whitebeard's armada.
Although Whitebeard didn't have a very specific goal beyond protecting his large family, he remained in line with the rest of his former crewmates, maintaining a large fleet. After the time skip, we saw that Blackbeard took over Hachinosu after overthrowing Ochoku, a former Rox member. This alone allows us to imagine that Ochoku also had a large crew. Most likely, the residents of Hachinosu were aggregated into Blackbeard's crew. And you need something like that to control a pirate island, especially Hachinosu. Given that Blackbeard even needed a dark distraction involving Kobe and Law during the Rocky Port incident, it probably wasn't an easy fight, not even for him. Despite this, Blackbeard already had at least 10 powerful crews at his disposal, commanded by his Titanic captains. And speaking of Blackbeard himself, he was not a member of the Rox crew. He was born about a year before Xebec's fall in God Valley. In other words, he was still a baby. But, at this point, I think we all accept that while Luffy is Roger's spiritual successor, Blackbeard is Xebec's spiritual successor. With this in mind, Blackbeard went from a compact and powerful crew, like Luffy's and Roger's, to a structure with Titanic captains, all likely with their own crews. This resumes the concept of the Rox, as all members of Xebec's ship basically became captains of their own fleets in the future. And, given that Rox D-Xebec wanted to be king of the world, and it seems he had this idea at a time when Pirate King wasn't even an existing concept, we can infer that his ambition was even greater than Roger's during that period. Roger wanted freedom. He had his dream, but he hadn't yet defined a concrete goal. Rox, on the other hand, wanted absolute government. He didn't just want to be Pirate King. He wanted to control the entire world, overthrow the celestial dragons, and very possibly challenge the Gorosei and Imusama himself. Rock's haki was possibly so powerful that it could defeat entire armies, and even clash with Imusama's hidden forces, as we saw symbolically in Egghead, with that rope being untied at the top of the dome. If he knew about the Void Century or had some deeper knowledge, his strength made him a real threat to the world. And yes, if I had to bet on a pirate capable of splitting the heavens alone with his king's haki, just like Joy Boy did with his rope, I would bet on Rox D-Xebec. The greatest battle in history, the God Valley incident, was not just a fight. It wasn't just a duel between pirates. It was an execution. Rox came very close to achieving his goal, and Garp and Roger had to unite to stop him. Sengoku talks about Rox with pure fear in the chapter. Whitebeard, Kaido, and Big Mom revered him. The fact that Roger, a man who bowed to no one, was forced to ally with the Marines is proof of how strong Rox was. We never saw his body. We never had full confirmation of his death, other than statements from the world government itself, which buried his name for a reason. He meddled with taboos that the government doesn't want anyone to discover. And if Rox D-Xebec somehow survived and has been hiding in the shadows, the world is about to enter its greatest war yet. Xebec had the strongest conqueror's haki of his time, and possibly the most powerful of the last 800 years, the strongest of the old generation. A man who, without achieving his final dream, managed to make even the world government tremble in its foundations. And he is still lurking in old memories, for now. But with his will alive and being a real threat, the burning question remains. Will Roger D. Xebec return to the current era of piracy, or will he just be a flashback, an old memory? I believe he returns. I don't think he will just remain silent. Oda will truly show his story, but I think he will make an appearance in the current times. Maybe he's the man marked by flames, why not? I think Xebec will return, and he'll be a huge headache. And you? What do you think of this character? What is his power level? Does he rival Joy Boy? What does it mean to be king of the world in the view of these pirates? Put your theories here in the comments. I really want to know what you think. Want to know if Sanji will have King's Haki? I'll leave the link in the description or somewhere else in the video. If you like this video, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and see you next time. Thanks for watching. I'm out.